Ladies and gentlemen, Caitlin is about to come on, and this woman is a dynamic powerhouse and absolutely tapping into her gifts, championing some huge, huge causes. So if you want to get inspired, if you want to ignite your courage and your greatness within you, stick around. We are just getting started up in here. And if you are an entrepreneur, a leader, an influencer, a visionary, a messenger, an author, a speaker, anyone who wants to get your message out to the world in a bigger way, I love you. I acknowledge you for stepping up to the plate, for saying, I'm going to change people's lives, and I want to support you any way I can. If that's coming on the 12-hour marathon as a guest, would love to have a conversation about that. Just go to beyourgps.com/pre-interview, and we'll have a quick conversation and see if it's a good fit for both of us. The second is, if you want to launch your own podcast, create your own platform, or just strategize, ask some questions, I'm happy to be here and support you through that clarity process. And just get a hold of me at I am Millionaire Chris on Instagram, facebook.com/th3burns, Chris at beyourgps.com. Any of those, send me a message. You got to start the conversation though. You can't just add me and expect me to, find you and say, hey, I know you wanted the help and I know you wanted to transform your life. Here's how you can do it. No, you got to say, hey, Chris, I love what you're doing. I want help. Okay. You got to raise your hand. You got to learn how to ask for help and support. And it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you wrong or anything like that. You're totally perfect as you are. And there's always room to grow for all of us. So I encourage you to step up to the plate and get the support that you need. I'm here for you. And any way I could support you, let me know. Next, let's talk about the iTunes review of the week, because I love seeing people's feedback when they share what's working, what can use improvement, and how we can make the show even better for you. So specifically, Brian Kelly from Reach Your Peak says, authentic and energetic. Chris is authentic as one can be. He loves helping people, and his energy is infectious. Watch this show if you want to become your greatest possible self. Thanks so much, Brian. I appreciate you, man. And hey, if you're out there listening, you want to give us the feedback, you want to let us know how we're doing, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on the iTunes store and give us a review there. While you're there, make sure you subscribe so you get the latest updates and episodes. iTunes, you can also go to Spotify and get them there and subscribe. So definitely do that so you get, we release an episode and every day. Every dang day you get more inspiration, more encouragement, more GPS energy. So definitely subscribe. Now, I'm going to introduce Caitlin in just a second. Grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes, be ready to say what is the golden nugget that's being channeled through Chris and Caitlin right now that I can take massive action on and transform the rest of my life with. Because chances are you're going to get it right here, right now. Stick around all the way through till the end, because you never know what one idea can transform the rest of your life. Let's introduce Caitlin, then we'll bring her on. Caitlin began her love affair with branding at PAREXEL, a world-leading biopharmaceutical firm based in Waltham, Massachusetts. I think that's MA. I definitely need to refine my state. What is it? Acronyms or short spellings. There she joined alongside some of the world's most brilliant creatives, scientists, and sales force to create C-level content that owned the secret sauce of corporate communications and brand compliance strategy. Today, Caitlin works exclusively with heart-led entrepreneurs whose efforts counter that of Big Pharma, Big Oil, Deforestation, and Human Trafficking. She is committed to inspiring spiritual and creative leaders to become legacy brands that use money to heal the world. And we're blessed to have her with us today. Caitlin, are you ready to rock the house, Superwoman?
Yeah,
woo! I love it.
God, you're fired. I feel it.
Woo! That's how we roll. We're just totally about spreading those vibes out into the world. And Caitlin, you are doing that in a big way. And I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to share with our audience. Appreciate you.
You too. Thank you.
We're diving in. We're diving in right now. You ready? We're going in. Okay. So the first topic is a burning obsession, your burning obsession. So what does that mean for you? You are like such a champion for causes. So I think you get this more than a lot of people. So how does that relate for you, your burning obsession, Caitlin?
Okay, my burning obsession is really leadership. I think being the change in the world.
Yeah.
And that term is used so loosely. I feel like once everyone kind of started learning about Gandhi, and that was kind of a fad for a while. Like, oh my God, Gandhi. I remember I would see him on Instagram everywhere.
Yep.
Well, now it's hitting us in a more practical way now, as like consciousness is rising and more spiritual people are coming out with, Reiki healing or holistic medicine. And I think honestly, the wave of cannabis has brought that out, cannabis legalization. So my big burning passion is just to help leaders be the change. And it's not enough to be poor anymore. Like, it's not enough to be poor missionaries. We have to be the change in a big way. And that means finances, wealthy, legacies. It means modeling after corporate and seeing what the people who are doing that is demonized. Like, instead of making them the enemy and talking bad about them and putting that energy out, it's respecting what they do because they're good at it and learning from them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Preach it, sister. Preach it. Oh my gosh. So I love this. Like my heart totally is invested in this message that you're sharing right now, and in such a big way, because abundance is our birthright. Abundance, prosperity, using our gifts and our abilities to serve humanity in such a big way that we get paid generously for our efforts, and then we're able to create an even better life, even more joy, even more service, even more love, even more freedom and fulfillment, all of it, and creativity and innovation, and being our greatest possible self and leaving this planet better than when we found it. I know that's who you are, and I love that you're really standing for that, because it's easy to be spiritual and say, oh, screw money, screw worldly things, and be so in like cloud nine and like not grounded on earth that you actually don't even have an impact. Yeah, you're being the role model, you're being the example, but how are you actually activating your leadership? And Caitlin, you are a freaking champion for people to be powerhouse leaders. I love it.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So tell us a little bit more about what your clients come to you for. I mentioned it in the bio, but just in your own words, let's share with our audience.
Yeah. Okay. So my clients come to me to heal their relationship with money, sales, and business.
Wow.
Boom. Easy as that.
Wow. So powerful. So it's the relationship with money, sales, and business. These leaders who want to make a bigger impact, they come when they are not achieving that result, when they feel that there's blocks, when there's limitations, they have a ceiling over them. Like, man, I just want to break through these 5-figure months, but I'm not like getting there. What's stopping me? What limiting beliefs? All these kinds of things. And you're there to empower them, kick them through that door.
Love. I would say honestly though, I start with people even before they get to that point. A lot of them don't know they want to make money. They just want to be happy. They just want to be the change. They don't need money, so they say. And so I'm the person, honestly, I go after people. Not many people come to me voluntarily because the people I work with don't want money right away. So I'm the one that introduces this legacy concept of like, listen, I love what you're doing, but do you realize how selfish you're being by not wanting money, by staying poor, by working a job full time when you're literally selling your whole life for a paycheck? Like, are you sure you're really letting money not control you? Or are you being a slave to money because you're refusing to learn how to create it? You're
so anti it that it has a dominant force in your life, keeping them small. That's powerful. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to go back in your journey. You've had some incredible experience. Before we continue, I want people to get to know you a little bit more. Where did this all begin for you, being such a cause-driven leader empowerment specialist and transformational coach?
Well, okay, so let me take you way back.
Let's go. Let's go.
So I started playing guitar at 12. And this is important because I started like going to church a lot, those Pentecostal churches where it's very like passion, service oriented. I knew I loved music and I wanted to be a missionary. I wanted to go into third world countries to serve. So when I was 18, I went to Bible school. Now, meanwhile, this whole while, I've always loved making money. I've always loved making money for other people. I was the person who, whenever there was a fundraiser at my church, I would go around with Pringles cans in my high school and ask for teachers for money.
Wow.
Like, I was so good at making money for other people.
That's awesome.
And I really had fun. And that contradicted with what was in my heart. I thought like money was evil. I thought it was bad to have money, to have a lot. I never let myself have a lot. So I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to go to Bible school. I'm going to live in a third world country. I'm going to be poor. I'm going to be like Mother Teresa. And I felt like I was split in half for so many years, like up until I was like 24, because what was naturally innately me, which was business, having these dreams to have an empire and even a musical empire too, contradicted with what I was taught to believe about poverty, you know? So I became a coach because around 2016, I quit my corporate job and decided to dive in full time to a writer. I was like, that's it. I'm going to be a creative for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a writer. So I launched, get it. And in 2014, I thought as big as possible of the Story Speak Enterprises. I was like, all right, I don't know how to make money yet, but I know exactly what this is going to serve. I know that my writing is going to bring awareness to human trafficking, addiction, and like these specific causes. And I started out that way. I started writing for those causes. Next level, I was like, all right, now I got to stop writing articles for other people. I need my own clients. So I took my branding to the next level and I targeted public figures and businesses. And I began writing for them and completing projects. So within a period of like 2 years, I evolved from contributor to copywriter to coach.
Wow.
And it was after I drove across country to the West, where I was still a copywriter at the time for an amazing brand, for a cannabis brand, really good money, really great opportunities. And I ended up quitting it. I let them go as a client because I didn't feel fulfilled. I was stressed all the time. And I realized I couldn't write for other people who didn't care about the brand or their audience or their cause.
Wow.
So as I started working more with creatives, I thought that working with that audience, I was like, here are people who care about their audience. They care about their mission and their brand. And then I was still doing the same thing, kind of doing all the marketing and writing for them. And then by the end of the projects, I'd get their money and I'd be like, this isn't fair. They're not taking responsibility for their business, for the processes that Wyatt was talking about. I'm sorry, that Monty was talking about. Monty, they didn't want to become a business leader. They didn't want to think like an entrepreneur. They didn't want to think like a marketer, and they didn't want to know their brand or audience. And so this is what I found. Like, I remember sitting there one day and I was like, this is a problem. I can no longer do this, and keep my conscience. I have to become a coach. Otherwise I'm enabling this problem. So, I decided to become a coach. Actually, this last August of 2018, I put my coach pants on, created my program, and just started modeling it in a new way where I'm like, people have to work with me for 3 months to heal their money mindset and heal their relationship with business and sales.
Beautiful.
And then we get into the program and I teach you to think like a marketer and brander. I give you the tools. I tell you what to do, but it's your job to become that leader of your business so you can make it bigger than yourself and train the people in congruence to your vision and values.
Wow. So this is amazing. You shared so much in your journey that you grew through. Just to recap, you went from this contributor saying, "Hey, I'll write for you, or contribute to your platform," and then you're like, "Okay, I know that I can do more. I can be a copywriter, have more structure to my writing, and help people with their messaging, their branding, grow their business." And then you evolved into coach because you're like, "Hey, this is awesome, and I want to have lots of people who I'm helping and giving these systems and strategies and processes to be able to help them grow their stuff." I also heard that you were growing with people who they had a cause, they had these kind of revolutionary, so to speak, directions and missions and purpose in life. And that there was also a little bit of incongruence with if they were willing to follow through on that, if they were willing to change and adapt their structure and their entrepreneurship and their enterprises to be able to grow and scale and be able to impact as many people as possible. You had these visions for these different companies, but not everyone was willing to change and adapt and get with the program, so to speak. And so now you're like, okay, I have the systems and the processes. I just need to equip people, the right people, the people who are driven by their cause and their mission and purpose, so that they can go out there and be super successful and change the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And do you mind if I backtrack to where it came in with the money for me? Because that moment where, so I had always been the type of person, I'm good with nothing. Like, my level of comfort is I could be homeless and play guitar in the corner and I'd be okay. So my level of standards is so low, and that's You know,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing I've had to come against with myself is that discomfort of having and pushing myself to have more than I need.
Wow.
So I remember playing guitar one day and it hit me. I was like, I'm in America. I have talents and I'm choosing to be okay with like a very small amount of money. I was like, I'm incredibly selfish. And I kind of like got disgusted with myself because I realized I was not living up to my potential.
This is so powerful. You were comfortable living uncomfortably with so little, saying, "Oh, this is okay. I like it. I like not having any money." Right. It's cool. It's cool. I just get to focus on what I really love, which is playing the guitar, or enjoying people and connections and friends, whatever. And I think a lot of people can really relate with that. And I think on the extreme end of the spectrum, people are comfortable with a lot of like self-sabotage, like staying stuck, staying in relationships that don't serve them, staying in careers that are so unfulfilling that suck the joy and the life out of them, or being in environments that are toxic in some way, shape, or form, and they've gotten like comfortable with being miserable. There's like this miserable comfort that they've adapted to, and that's not what we are meant for. And you had this revelation, this whole opening of what's possible. Hey, I live in America. Anything is possible. I can create anything. I create world-changing businesses. I could create a life of so much abundance and prosperity and be able to serve others in the process. And I think that you also, it might be a little bit selfish to say, hey, I'm comfortable with being where I'm at. It's okay. But when you say, I want to go lead people, I want to go serve people, then you really have to step up your example that you're living. You have to step up your ability to create and manage and generate resources to be able to make that difference in people's lives. And I think that's incredible that you got the wake-up call and now you're really living it.
Thanks. Yeah, it's what the key is finding purpose in everything. Finding purpose, the reason you are born where you are, you look like what you look like for a reason. Wow. You are given your talents for a reason. Yeah. It's not to be happy. It's not just for passion. Jay Shetty said, your passion is for you, your purpose is for others. So once your passion meets the people, that's fulfillment. But so many creatives and spiritual people I feel are existing because they just want to be happy and they want to be passionate. Yeah. But then where are you putting that energy? Like we have to put it towards something. And so the greater good. Yeah.
I love it. And I think that there's an aspect of building something that lasts. Monty was talking about like your organization, 50 years, 100 years in the future. Yes. Are you building something that is going to stand the test of time? And I think a lot of people are really just like, oh, be in bliss in the present moment at peace. And it's like, there's one aspect of that that's super important. A lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people are caught up in the rat race. A lot of people are, just totally not present and just dealing with tons of stress, overwhelm, in reaction mode all the time. And then there's the opposite end of the spectrum, which is like, hey, I'm just going to do what I love all the time, and doesn't matter if I'm impacting other people or not. And so I really love that you're bringing that dynamic here. And we have a question from Petia, and she asked, what would you say to yourself? What advice would you give to yourself 5 years ago?
Okay. Hi, Petia. Okay. So the advice I would give myself, and how many years ago it froze? What?
5.
5 years ago?
Yes, 5.
5 years ago, I was 26. So where was I in life? That's a great question. I think the best advice I'd give myself when I was 26 is don't be afraid to leave people behind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So simple and sweet.
Yeah.
To the point.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thanks.
Wow. Good stuff. Awesome. So I want to keep this moving forward and especially dive into the topic of fearlessness, because that's super important for you, and also being that spirit-led entrepreneur and visionary and world changer. So tell us about that conversation and how it got introduced in your world.
Sure. Well, in my world, all right. So I recently moved to Reno, Nevada, and here it's very spirituality everywhere.
Wow.
The natives, it's lots of native population. Wow. And honestly, that's how it really got brought to my attention again, was spending time with the natives. And fearlessness is something I've always heard, but never truly understood until I got more serious about my spiritual journey. And then when Nipsey Hussle died, okay, so that's when I was like, wow, this is what fearlessness is. And before he had died, he posted a Twitter announcement about fearlessness, about how more people need to be fearless. And here is this man, a rapper, who imagine growing up in the slums of LA, like having the kind of transformation that has to occur from the inside to become an entrepreneur, and someone who is okay with having a lot of money, who is okay with not fitting in with what he grew up with. I really resonated with that. And like after he died, it hit me so hard because I always felt like I could relate a lot to him, because I like felt his pain, not because of my own pain, because I have other friends who are in his shoes. I have a friend, Demetrius, in LA, who is friends with him, and he produces music. And Demetrius kind of is my mentor. And so knowing him and then knowing about Nipsey Hussle, I was like, oh my God, I understand Demetrius more. I have a friend in Zamira, she named Zamira, she mentored me a little bit too, from Philly, same kind of upbringing, rough life, grew up in addiction. She could have been on the streets, but she didn't. And so seeing all these people who are truly fierce and comparing it to myself, I grew up in a white neighborhood. I grew up, we weren't the richest family, and you could tell, single mom, and I had my own hardships and abusive relationships and everything. But when I was really confronted with the type of fearlessness that I realized other mentors around me had been through, and that it's not just a law of attraction thing, it's about not being impartial to life and death, being impartial to money or poverty, being impartial to fame or not being known, and just committing to action. That's when I learned about fearlessness, because it's like weird. It's like the universe showed it to me all at once. All these mentors around me, the natives, what they had been through. You sit with them, and here's the people who have the most like violent history, and you can sit with them in a circle, and they're the most peaceful beings, and they know how to love. And then there was one more thing that came to mind. What was it? Well, just all of these experiences really had shown me a lot in my own heart, what I wasn't fearless with, and I was still so scared of people and money and success. Yeah. And so honestly, that's what brought up the topic for me.
Yeah. And I want to dive into the impartial part. Yes. You mentioned that multiple times. Why was that a core part of the evolution?
Sure. So I'm big into the Bhagavad Gita, and Hinduism is a huge thing for me. And okay. Impartiality is essentially saying that, and this is what I teach my clients too, to walk on water in sales, right? So we're taught a lot of times to focus on a goal and results. But let's say you're feeling really good and you're showing up because, I can't wait to get to sale. I can't wait to get. And you're being trained to think of getting something, which means you're a taker in the world. You're greedy, and you're not concerned about giving. You're concerned about getting the outcome, right? So impartiality would say, I'm not here for good is equal to bad. Like, even if this person, I'm going to get on the phone with this person, and if they don't become a client, it's still going to be a great call. Yeah. Because it just is. Because it's the fact that it exists is why it's great. Wow. So it's kind of impartiality to me is removing that emotion, the attachment to the emotion of something. Yeah. And like I was on, even on a sunny day, a lot of people won't go outside unless it's a sunny day. And now I see a sunny day and a rainy day. It's like when someone says, it's a beautiful day today. Like, it's a beautiful day every day. Like, I'm alive. Yeah. That's what impartiality is. It's just, that's the state of being, right?
Wow. And
Does
so
that make sense?
I hear being unattached. The word I've had is unattached. And I went through a lot of education with Landmark, and they talk about being attached versus committed, right? And if you're attached to something, you're attached to the circumstances, you're attached to the weather being a certain way for you to say it's a beautiful day versus, if it's rainy, oh no, it's not beautiful anymore. No, it's still beautiful. This nature, like focus on. It's almost like going meta, a higher level, right? It's like, what can you be grateful for? That nature is working, that you're alive, that you have blood flowing through your body, And I think that there's a greater wisdom, a greater sense of trusting that everything is all working out while still having the focus and the tenacity and the urgency and the burning obsession for creating your best life ever. And it's like, how do we juggle the circumstances with what gets thrown to us and being impartial while still being super driven on our purpose and what's most important to us?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. I love it so much. So I want to dive into more about empowering leaders. Let's talk about that and what do leaders who are championing a cause today, what do they need to know to really step up and be even more effective leaders? What have you seen work with your clients and how you work?
I think the number one thing is to take responsibility for everything.
Yes.
Especially money. But if we're not willing to take responsibility for ourselves, we're not being the change. I see a lot of leaders and a lot of people when they first come to me are very good at identifying what is wrong with the world, what is wrong and why they're being the change. Like, look what I'm doing. But it's almost, instead of being, like you said, committed to action and detached from the emotion of it, detached from the results of it, and just obsessed with that being, and having enough faith in themselves as the change, they are trying to make change happen in other people. Or they're trying to make change happen in other systems. And so this is why I teach clients that, listen, we are to counter the opposition. Opposition in English, we have everything in English. We are brainwashed to be, I'm sorry, that brainwashed, programmed to believe to have emotional attachment to words, right? So when you hear opposition, you think opposition, like a man with a gun, like it's evil, right? But when nature teaches opposition, sun to moon, there's no evil or bad. It just is, right? Each one serves its purpose. So we are to be the sun to the moon. So what I teach, I think the biggest thing for leaders is to understand is trying to change other people, demeaning what someone else is doing, what the opponent is doing, focusing attention on that is feeding more of that and creating that monster in the world. Whatever energy we give, it's literally multiplied and given back to us. So why, as leaders, are we talking about what other people are doing instead of putting all of our thought energy and all our breath, all our physical energy into our own actions? We need to return to ourselves and focus our attention on ourselves, because that's how we are rivers, I always say. And we're supposed to be flowing and let that river, the water that we come out, let it flow back to us so we can become bigger and bigger and make more impact and collectivize. So I think that's the biggest thing, is to focus on what we are doing.
Wow. And as far as how to focus on ourselves and what we're doing and stay in our own lane, what do you recommend as ways to reinvest that energy and that focus, and to make sure that the actions that we're taking are aligned and they're feeding that flow, that river?
That's a really good question. In order to stay aligned, so it all comes back to intention. So this is the very first thing I said with people. That's what a brand is. At the end of the day, it's an intention. It's an intention that gives birth to an entity that will outlive you if you do it right. So where a lot of people mistake intention is, again, a result-oriented approach. If I do this, then I will get this. So I'm going to think good so I can get good things. I'm going to be good so I can get good things. But that's not an intention. That's a taking. An intention is something we give out, not for results, but it's because who we are. Like, what do you want to be in the world? So in order for people to align themselves to the right actions, I would say you have to make sure it's based in love, not in fear. You have to know why you're showing up. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing. And you have to see it as cause and effect. It's not about right and wrong. It's not about, can I do this? Should I do this? A lot of people, that's what I teach them when they first start working with me. Can I, Caitlin, I want to do this. Can I do this? Like marketing wise or business wise. And I say, don't ask, just do, execute it. Then we have something to work with. Wow. It's all cause and effect. There's no right and wrong. So I think, understanding that we are all causes and effects, knowing what we want and knowing why we want it is the most important thing to make sure we can align to correct actions.
And I love how you said it's more the cause and effect, as in it's like there's no emotion attached to it. It's like a mechanism. It's like understanding it's a formula. There's no judgment. I love that. How do you empower your clients to not get caught up in the swirl and the emotions and the judgments from that?
So this is really interesting, Chris, because I just want to let you know, when I coach people, I use business to confront them with themselves. So from day one, we assign actions that they will take related to their business, and they will automatically be confronted with their minds and their true character, right? So in order to keep them from judging themselves, essentially, it's always reminding them, like you said, that it's all a mechanism, that I call it taking the ego out of business, that I just kind of bring them back to earth and say, listen, you believe you are called to this, right? Like you believe you were given this vision, but it's not your vision. You're like a steward of it. Wow. So just know you can't screw anything up. You can't screw anything up. Wow. You can only commit to action and keep going. Yeah. And so honestly, a lot of it's just unprogramming everything we've been taught. And there's 3 things that I teach my clients in order to keep them in balance, as you said, to them with the mechanism detached and committed to action passionately. It's to remove any energy of judgment, fear, and desire. So once you can identify these in the thoughts, because that's all like fear-based. Well, judgment, fear is fear, but judgment, fear, desire, those are not of love. Love just is. You take responsibility for your choice. You take responsibility for the effects, the consequences. And when I say consequences, I don't mean it as a negative thing. Consequences, I mean the effects of that decision. Yeah. And then depending on what you get, you look at it and say, okay, did it work? Did it not work? What can we do differently? And then you do it again. So it's, again, like going back to that robotic phase almost, because we're not our judgments. We're not our feelings. We are not our actions either. So it's kind of helping people take the right seat in their business. And so they can stop relying on themselves, as Monty also talked about, and rely on the processes. And so once we build the processes in place and the actions and habits, the processes is what will keep you from judging yourself, because you're relying on the process, not yourself.
Right. And I love that as well. It's like when there's a process, when there's a set of behaviors, you take the personality. I take the personality Chris out of the picture and I say, did the process achieve the result? Like, what was my process? Well, maybe I got distracted and I watched YouTube videos and went on Instagram, all this kind of stuff. Okay, well, we got to change that. That's not a part of the process for success, right? And so I don't have to judge myself. I just get to say, hey, what can I do differently?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, right? And so it's so funny. I don't know why most of us, we don't do that. It's naturally to attack ourselves, like, oh, you're so stupid. Oh, you could have done better. Like, no, that's not helping you or your business or anyone. That's just you wanting to feel important. Like, to be honest. Yeah. That's why we criticize ourselves. So I pretty much say it like it is, there's no, it is what it is. And so that's how I encourage people to not judge themselves. It's just remembering who we truly are. We are everything, but at the same time, we are nothing. That's why it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also this more spiritual perspective is that we are all love. Everything in this universe is love, right? Like everything at some level, some frequency of, like love, and like there might be lower frequencies of it or a lesser presence of it, but ultimately we're all that. So it's like just to remember that it takes out the emotionality of like judgment, right? Like especially there's so much of the fear, like the anticipated struggle and stress and being wrong and judgment, and like like especially with religion taught people about like hell, like, oh, if you make mistakes you're going to go to this place and be condemned forever. There's so much fear in that, and I think it's just really important for people to know that all there is right now. And I no matter what, in my opinion, like we're forgiven for everything that we do because we all go back to the source of love at the end of this, right? Like there's nothing that we could do. I love how you said you can't screw it up. Your vision, you can't screw it up. Like if it's meant to be, it'll be, whether it's through you, whether it's through someone else. Like the universe is going to evolve and do the thing that it's going to do. So don't be so I think for me it's like don't be so egoic that I'm the one who the weight of the world is on my shoulders. No, it's like I have this vision. I either execute it or I don't. One of the two.
And I think what the real thing is, I have this saying that is being commands becoming. So we forget why are you in a journey in the first place? This vision may not even be for the vision. I think all of us are here to develop ourselves or undevelop ourselves, I should say, to get back to who we truly are.
Yes.
And so at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And it's like, yeah.
So you are, I'd say you and I, we have a really similar language of creation. And I really love that. I love that, Caitlin. Where would you say most of your inspiration and evolution and consciousness came from along your journey? Or what were some of those big sources for you?
Honestly, my own personal experiences. Shall I
elaborate?
Okay. This past year, so as I said, I grew up in the church. I put myself in church. My family wasn't that religious. We grew up Catholic, but when I was 12, like loved that community and that relationship with God. It wasn't just like kneeling and sitting and ritual, I prescribed to that doctrine, like faith, Christianity, like Pentecostal type faith, up until I was like 28. And then, honestly, just until last year, I kind of had this little breakdown. Let me reverse a little bit. At the age of 24, I broke an engagement because I was with a Christian man. And I was really confused because the church had misled me to do things, to stay in situations that were not safe for me. I endured a lot of abuse in a relationship, and I was confusing love with so much fear and wanting to please people and be good for God, and be worthy and earn love and approval. Obligation, yes. So I started questioning things around that time and started kind of really understanding what love truly was and who God really was. And then around last year, I found myself in another difficult situation, being with essentially a con artist, like a master manipulator. He was a public figure. And I gave all my money to him. I didn't know I was very programmable. I was easily manipulated, and it's because I didn't trust my intuition.
Wow.
I didn't trust myself. I was always taught that I didn't know what was best for myself. I put my faith in something else, and it led me down a really dark, dangerous path. So being in that the last wasn't a relationship, whatever it was, a mastership, difficult situation last year where I was completely taken advantage of, and I thought it was my fault. I had a mental breakdown. Yeah. I was faced with my mind, which years earlier I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I committed to healing myself, healing my own mind. That's how I started learning about the difference between love and fear and thoughts, and returning to who I truly was, like you said, truly am. Like you said, we're all abundant. We're all love. At the end of the day, that's all we are. So as I began to strip away all these things that I was taught, and I really healed my childhood trauma, that's when I came to be conscious. And it mostly happened in the domestic violence shelter. And I'll never forget, like, I was the only one in that shelter taking the time to sift through my internal self. And I was still committed to my business. I just say that because a lot of people, this is one thing about some creatives who have not harnessed the character to withstand in difficult situations. The biggest thing I was taught in that time last year was how to maintain a frequency of love when you are literally scared for your life. And I had been in those moments. When I was with that man, I was like a shell of Caitlin. I was not who you saw today. I would do things for money that Caitlin would never do because I was terrified. And it's funny because after domestic violence shelter, I got another roommate, another dangerous situation. And it's clearly because my vibrations were not like where they should be, I don't think. And I was still like drawn to these kinds of people, wanting to control others. And this is another situation I did not feel safe in. And again, but I learned to keep my vibration at a frequency of love, which meant I could keep my thoughts on love. I could keep my energy not sinking to fear. And I could keep not just positive, because people say, oh, think positive a lot, but that's not where there's true power. I believe the true power is in going back to the impartiality, right? Where if someone, and by the way, I'm not condoning anyone to stay in dangerous situations. I did what I could do, but to truly love your enemies, to truly love someone who is out to hurt you, and understand that they truly don't know what they're doing. That's to stay at the love frequency. And that's what really, I think, helped my consciousness, because I've always endured things in relationships because of the kind of person I was. I didn't know love. I knew approval. So even with the person I was engaged 2 years ago, when I was 24, he had raped me. He had raped me 3 times. I had called the cops multiple times on him, but I stayed with him because I was desperate to be loved or to get his approval, and I didn't want to let people down. And so it's interesting that now, coming back around to 2018, when I experienced these things, I saw the issue in myself, and I was able to graciously understand the powers at play and my role in it. Right. So I wasn't a victim anymore. I'm not a victim of the situation or relationship. And I became truly, truly conscious because I saw the cause and effect of my thoughts and energy.
Wow. Wow. Caitlin, first of all, thank you so much for sharing all of that. It's incredible, the level of, just coming to terms with it and not judging it, and just like saying, here's what happened. Here's the facts. Here's what it was like for me. Here's my experience. And here's how I chose to show up in spite of those things going on. So I really want to highlight being love, regardless of what is going on and regardless of people who like do us wrong. I think it's so easy to get into either victim mindset and blame and put all our power and give all our responsibility away to those people. And I totally hear that you're like centered in your power, that you create your reality. Hey, maybe I was having some vibrations and energy that totally, wasn't serving me. That's why I kept attracting these people. And that's usually what happens when we haven't cleaned up our own stuff and healed our past and those wounds. Then we and get clear on who we want really specifically and align with that energy. Then we keep attracting things that we don't want, so that the universe can say, hey, you're putting out not quite the correct frequency, not the optimal frequency, not the frequency that you're meant to be and to put out. So I love that. And also I wanted to talk about, I think the characteristic or attribute that you were being was graceful, right? With people, with yourself. You were being forgiving. You were being, like you said, the impartiality, not positive, right? Like, cause, I'm just going to be happy. It's like, okay, well, to go from a state of like fear, disempowerment, untrusting or whatever it might be, hurt, in pain, suffering, to go to positivity It's not necessarily authentic. And I think the most authentic place that we can be is saying, I'm sure that they had their reasons, they had their paradigm, they had their thought processes and emotions that they were processing through and healing on their own journey that caused them to show up like that in my own life. And I don't make them wrong for it. It sure as hell wasn't fun. It sucked. Like, I would never do it again. And like, they're going on their journey. So like, I love you. Like, I wish you the best. I have grace and compassion for you, but I no longer will tolerate that in my space. I no longer will allow that to be a part of my own journey, my own life. So I think that that's super powerful, and the impartiality, especially of like the positivity. I just really want to dive this in deep for anyone who's listening or watching, because this is gold. It's like not to be attached to being in some state, but to saying, what's the gift? How can I find the good in this? How can I use this to take my next step? How can I leverage this pain and say, nope, that's not what I don't want, and not beat yourself up for it, not make yourself wrong, not bring tons of shame and guilt and disempowerment with that, but rather the responsibility that you were talking about, Caitlin, and say, I'm responsible for my state. I'm responsible for the next direction, the next steps that I take. Where do I want to go from here? And if we bring that negative stuff with us, then we can't truly leap into our next awesome phase and season of life. But you saw that, and you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on what I want, where I want to go, detach from how they showed up for me, and I'm going to continue moving forward and create ultimate love, my greatest possible self in life. And I think it's really, really cool that you did that. It's awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome. So we had Ago, I believe that's how you pronounce the name, true being in an open heart, unconditional love. Charla said so much truth, and the harder they are to love, the more they need it. So I think that's super profound as well. It's like people who are really hurting are going to hurt other people in a big way. And, it's like, how can we have compassion for them? That was something that I was like wrestling with, I think like a year or two ago, is knowing that there's people out there committing these crimes and hurting people and like doing some terrible things. Like how can I love those people, and that's like going back to the Gandhi stuff, going back to not being attached, but just sending the love and not feeding that negativity or that disempowerment or whatever it is. It's challenging, but it takes a whole new level of evolution and consciousness to be able to show up like that.
Yeah. Yes. And if I may add, I think we tend to feel guilty or shame if we don't attach any kind of negative emotion with those people or with actions. And that's where we have to step back and say, is that love or is that just ego? Because how are you helping the situation by demonizing someone or judging them? All you literally do is planting more evil in the world. It's planting darkness in the world. So, yeah.
That's super, super powerful. I think it's the kind of herd mentality that has been instituted, so to speak, in that, like, if we're not judging and making something wrong and saying, how could you, and like feeding that negative energy that a lot of the population of the world is doing when those things happen, it's like we're heartless. We're not really connected. We're not really good human beings. It's like, nah, not anymore.
Yeah.
That's not what we subscribe to.
Yeah. So true.
Love it. We subscribe to love. And Charlie had one more comment. If God is love, he can't be not love. Unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, not unconditional boundaries. And Tara says, love that, Caitlin.
Thanks, you guys.
This is gold. Yes. This is gold. So is there anything about fearlessness, about stepping into our power as a leader, loving money and appreciating the beautiful abilities that creates in our own lives and with abundance and prosperity? Anything else that you wanted to touch on?
I think I would just like to touch on the fact that it's okay to have a lot. As long as you know what you're doing with it. It's okay to have a lot of money. And I believe the people who should have a lot of money are those who are spirit-led and are heart-led.
Hmm.
The problem is not money. The problem is not having that intention with money. So that's why I just want to drive from that legacy brand leader thing. Yeah. Just as Monty was talking about, that is literally what I teach. I teach exactly what he teaches. And so it's really important that, number one, it's not anything that we don't have in our lives is like because of stagnant energy, right? So a lot of people subscribe to an identity of, oh, I'm an empath. Oh, I'm a healer. Oh, I'm an artist. And they think because they are this thing, they can't be someone in business. They can't make a lot of money because that's not me. If that were me, that'd be, and we can't even attach to those identities. So that's just something I just want to say, that that's not who you are. That's who you are in the moment, but your energy, and you're always moving. So if you are the same person for your whole life, wow. I don't think that's something to be proud of. I think that's something that's saying that it's not good or bad either, but your energy is stagnant. And so I think it's important for people to understand what they're truly doing to themselves and the world when they're not wanting to evolve into something that would require more effort and responsibility on their parts.
Yeah. Well, everything is also always changing. So we're either growing or we're dying. I think stagnant is an illusion, but in truth, your gifts are dying. That you're either strengthening the muscles, being kind, going out and giving, serving the world, showing up and learning more and expanding, or someone is staying stuck in their room and, staying complacent at their job. So I think that's so powerful. I also love what you're talking about, the identity. Don't be attached to the identity because it's always changing. It's always fluid. We are human beings, and we can be any way that we want. And I think it's also important. I think when I say that, people are like, oh, well, I'm 4 foot tall and you think I can go play in the NBA? It's like, that's not what it means. It means you can be any way you want to be. You can be free. You can be courageous. You can be charismatic. You can be enthusiastic. You can be agile. You can be strong. You can have incredible stamina. You can be enduring. You can be whatever, brilliant. I think a lot of people attach the labels of achievements, of outcomes to actually what they could do to show up as their greatest possible self, as the powerhouse leader.
Yeah. May I touch on one more thing also?
Get it.
Okay. One thing I didn't say earlier, you had asked me about how to keep people aligned to non-judgment and to committed to actions without the sway of emotions. Okay. Here's what we all have to remember, especially when you involve in money. We're all nature. At the end of the day, we are all nature. If there's anything the natives remind me of, any indigenous people, it's that they are the purest form of people. They were told they were wrong when they were in their purest form, which is like naked on the land, living from the land, giving to the land, living as the animals, right? So we are conditioned to live in fear and to think we need money. But the truth is we are nature. And when Jesus talks about we are as the birds of the air, why would you worry? Because, even I dress the flowers this beautiful. Why do you worry that you won't even have clothes? Like, I'll dress you more beautifully than flowers. So I always remind my clients, listen, money is a byproduct of who we are. We are frequency. Money is a frequency.
Yeah. Yeah.
We already have everything we need. So once you remember that you're nature, the world is in your hands, because you will always have what you need if you believe that you already have it.
Caitlin, this is freaking gold. I love it. I feel like we could keep talking about this for hours and just share this philosophy that we're really inviting other people to try on, to see if it fits themselves. There's no wrong or right in this. We all have our own perspectives and paradigms that we operate out of. This is just what Caitlin and I have found works for us in our respective viewpoints. And of course, Caitlin, not everything that I say you agree with, and not everything you say I agree with. We have our own journeys, and I love that. It's so awesome. So I think that there are definitely people in the audience watching or listening right now, live or replay, who align with you and your message, and they want to continue their journey with you and see what else they can do to keep growing themselves. So how can they do that? What are the next steps with you, Caitlin?
Sure. I have a website called storyspeak.net, and I think I gave Chris my contact calendar.
Yep.
But there's a thing called a legacy brand map, and I would love to go over that with you on a call. So if you go to my website, there'll be a pop-up where you can enter your email address and subscribe to the Legacy Brand Map. And once you get that email to you, it'll invite you to a strategy call with me through the email. Otherwise, you can go to my website and click on contact, and that's my calendar. And you can just book a session with me.
Love it.
Free session. We go over the Legacy Brand Map. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then how do they find you on Instagram?
Storyspeak.enterprises.
Beautiful. Perfect. You heard it, peeps. Go to storyspeak.net, do the Legacy Brand Map, and also follow Caitlin on Instagram at storyspeak.enterprises. And Caitlin, I want to give our audience a dose of the final fire and wisdom and encouragement and enthusiasm and what you think people need to hear from your heart. Let's give them a minute of your greatest wisdom. Go ahead and hit them with it.
Okay, you guys. The world needs you to be successful. The world needs you to be rich. And knowing your worth is not enough. You have to know exactly what you want to do with the money when you have it. You have to know what you are made for. We choose our purpose, and our passion and vision is planted in our hearts, but we choose our purpose. So be fearless, knowing that you can have whatever you want. You don't need anyone's approval or permission because the world really needs you to be uncomfortable.
Amen. Get it. Get uncomfortable, grow, evolve. Caitlin, thank you so much for being here. You're a powerhouse. So excited for all the growth that's coming for both of us and to see what we create and create together in the future. So I appreciate you. Thank you.